Joining us on the podcast today is baritone saxophonist Frank Basile, one of the most in-demand musicians on the scene today. Since moving to New York in 2001, he's performed and recorded with jazz legends such as the Vanguard Jazz Orchestra, the Count Basie Orchestra, and Christian McBride. Known for his deep tone and masterful playing, Frank's become a staple in both big bands and small ensembles. In addition to being a highly sought-after sideman, he leads his own groups, released multiple recordings as a leader, as a dedicated educator. So welcome, Frank. Good to see you.
Thank you, Abe. Great to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Oh, yeah, my pleasure. Frank, the first thing I wanted to talk to you about was the new 2023 record you did with Gary. When you think about it, I mean, I have to be completely honest with you. When you think about two of these baritone saxophonists are going to make a record together with a rhythm section, you're a little apprehensive as a listener because the baritone is such a strong presence,
Yeah.
tone, but the way you two play together, it's just beautifully blended.
Hmm. Thank you. Thank you very much. Um, yeah. Well, let's see. I guess I'll just start out by saying that, Gary Smulyan has long been an absolute hero of mine. And, um, you know, among the many reasons I wanted to move to New York, being closer to Gary was certainly high on the list. When I first moved to New York, I was studying with him, and to be honest, just like as a fan, I just wanted to see him play as often as I could, and try to, maybe soak some of that up, But so in the back of my mind for years, I was always like, man, it would be great to be able to do something together. Um, and I don't remember exactly how it came up, but I think it actually came up with a few years ago. I was like really digging deep into the Lockjaw Davis Johnny Griffin Quintet, all those records they did together. And what a great band that was. And the arrangements were super hip, and it was just so cool. And I thought, well, man, this would be the perfect opportunity to kind of take this um, concept. It's been done many times for two tenors, Al Cohn, Zoot Sims, Lockjaw Davis, Johnny Griffin, Gene Ammon, Sonny Stitt, the list goes on. But it's never really been done formally for two baritones. So I was like, you know what, this is a good opportunity. So I ended up like transcribing some of those Lockjaw Davis, Johnny Griffin arrangements, and writing them out for two baritones. And yeah, I think well, actually, we did our first gig the weekend before everything shut down on COVID. We did a weekend at Smalls. I think that was March, if I can remember the dates, it was March 7th and 8th, 2020. And
So even though you had a relationship with him, this was the first time, the first gig
this
is,
is the first gig we did together as this unit.
yeah,
But
like co-leading, I guess you could say,
yes,
right?
yes. But no, I mean, I didn't hear the first part of that question, but I mean, I've known Gary for all these years, and
Mhm.
we've definitely had a certain type of relationship, personal, professional, but we've never like gotten to play together like this, um, both, up front in a group. So we did that weekend at Smalls, then everything kind of shut down, of course. But as time went on, we ended up doing some more gigs, and an opportunity came up to record. Because Gary, he's been doing some things in recent years on Steeplechase, and I think he was up to do another one. So he said, "Hey, let's do the Boss Baritones for the next recording session." So that's what we ended up doing. I think it was December 2023. We recorded, and the record came out, I think, like summer of last year. And it was a really, I mean, really, it was a wonderful experience for me. It was kind of a almost kind of like a bucket list sort of thing. It was really amazing just to be there playing with Gary and
When I think
recording.
about two saxophones, I think about the Lee Konitz um, records at the half note,
Yeah.
where it's just, this incredible swing behind it. And it reminded me a little bit of that, but with your personal twist on that. Was it coming from like those types of places too, or even like the Coltrane with Eric Dolphy type of stuff?
Well, I mean, I think, like I said, for me, the main inspiration was just all those two tenor groups, like
Hmm.
Lockwood Davis, Johnny Griffin, Gene Ammons, Sonny Stitt, that sort of thing. But of course, I did hope that we would put our own kind of personal spin on it as well. Um, and so we've actually managed to um, book a few tour dates later this year. In May, we're going to be playing in Austin and Albuquerque and Santa Fe, and then we're going up to Seattle. And we hope to maybe, it's
Will those all be
really hard to book gigs, tour dates. It's so hard. So I'm
well,
hoping
no,
that this is the trend that can continue.
those gigs when you go to Austin and
Yeah.
will that be using a band that you bring with you, or you'll be using
We're going to use
musicians?
local rhythm sections in on those dates. So yeah, we're not going to, financially, we're not going to be able to bring a whole band from New York, unfortunately. But I'm confident in that we'll be playing with capable rhythm sections,
Of
and
course.
we're really looking forward to getting out there.
Where are you playing in Austin?
Parker's Jazz Club.
Okay, I'm going to Austin in 2 weeks, so
Okay.
I should go there and
Yeah,
just
I've never been, but from what I hear, it's a very nice club.
yeah.
Hmm.
So this tour is like just is going to be exciting. To go, and it's so exciting to go and play with different rhythm sections. It's
Hmm.
something I've done before as a guitarist. It's a little anxiety inducing, but
Sure.
there is something about it feels so fresh each time. It's like
Yeah.
it's almost a way to do it to keep that spontaneity that alive.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think in order to do that, you yourself really need to be sure of and on top of what you're doing. So, any curveballs that may come your way, you're still kind of focused on what's happening. I always look up to one of my absolute favorite saxophonists of all time is Sonny Stitt, and that's what he would do. He would go out and play with whatever rhythm section all the time. For whatever reason, he wasn't afforded the ability to travel with his own band, and so many recordings where he's just playing with different rhythm sections and
Yeah,
does it really
that's fantastic. I also, I wanted to talk to you about, your role as an educator.
well. Okay.
So in recent years, what's what where are you in the education field musically?
Well, to be quite honest, it's not a very big part of my daily or regular sort of thing. And I've thought about that a lot. I mean, mostly what I do is I will teach a few lessons, private lessons at my house here and there from people who get in touch with me and say, hey, are you, do you teach some lessons? I say, sure. Um, and every now and then, like I'll have a student at the new school or something like that. Or I've subbed for colleagues of mine, like at NYU or, wherever. Um, I feel like, most of those sort of college adjunct positions that a lot of my colleagues have, um, it's my perception that not many of these people have actually sought these out. Like they've been asked to come do these sort of things, and I've never really been asked
Well,
to.
it's interesting because this is something I've thought about.
Mhm.
There's like two sides to the coin. There's like people who have been asked to be in those positions. They're, great artists and great improvisers, what have you. But
Mhm.
then there's the other side of the coin, excuse me, that are these people who are really known as players, and then they get you know, they're just sought out on their own. And
Sure.
like you're saying, people will contact you, but
Yeah.
there really is no rhyme nor reason for it. Sometimes,
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, sometimes, well, sometimes there is, and sometimes there isn't. I also, there's that whole thing where,
like I'm
some
sure,
people,
but I guess what I'm sure if like let's
yeah.
say a jazz institution with a program approached you and they said, "Will you come on board to be our, do ensembles or do
Hmm.
saxophone?" I'm sure you would jump on it.
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, but yeah, it's just like I was saying, it's hard to book tour dates. I mean, it's really hard to come by like a steady teaching thing. And there's also that thing where there's some really great educators out there who maybe aren't great players. There are really great players who maybe aren't great educators. And then you have that sweet spot where
Yeah.
there are people who can do both really
Yeah.
well. And to be quite honest, I mean, I do feel like um, I have a lot I could share with students. I don't feel like teaching is my necessarily my calling. I mean, I'm glad to do it, and I am serious about um, helping the next generation and all that sort of thing. But let's just say teaching is not a muscle that I've flexed a whole bunch over the years. I don't have like a method or I feel like a good teacher will kind of like clue you into the path, but the student really has to do the work on
You do because you strike me as someone who would be have that sweet spot just by talking to you right now.
Well, maybe. I mean, like I said, I guess I just haven't had a lot of opportunity to flex the teaching muscle, you know?
I mean, I'm a product of the Berkeley and NYU school system, and you're 100% right. People who cannot teach this whatsoever, who are
Hmm.
in those positions, but then like you take someone like I studied with Brian Lynch, the trumpet player,
Yeah,
and one of the best jazz educators I've ever met in my
that's
life.
great. It's important to have these people who really can, just get the message across. And sometimes I feel like I struggle with that a little bit, but who knows? There's always room for improvement.
Yeah, so I know that so when you were talking a bit in the beginning about going to meet Gary in New
Hmm.
York and everything, that's going back to 2001.
Yeah,
Let's
well, I met him when I was at a little bit before that when I was in school in North Texas. I remember the Vanguard Orchestra came down and did some stuff, and I remember that was the first time I met him, and he had no idea who, he's just such a nice guy, just so encouraging. That's also really important. I mean, I was saying, yeah, I'm thinking of moving to New York after school. He's like, man, you got to come to New York. He was like just so encouraging, man. We can just give it a try,
That's
It's
awesome.
really nice. Yeah.
Who was sort of mentoring you, during the college times or even,
Yeah.
maybe a little bit after or even before that really, got you in the direction you're in.
Yeah, well, I had some encouraging when I started like taking private lessons as a youth. I had some. I grew up in Omaha, Nebraska. I had some teachers, that gave me some pretty good fundamentals. I really feel like that's really important starting out. And then once I got to North Texas, I studied with the saxophone teacher there named Jim Riggs, who may not be like a household name, but great, great educator, great player too. But he really, I mean, speaking of like fundamentals, he really like solidified that, it was every lesson, you got to go in, you got to play your scales, you got to play with the metronome, just like a really solid foundation, transcribing a lot, playing tunes. But really, it was like scales, metronome, that sort of thing. Um, and then when I came to New York, like I was said, I mean, I sought out Gary immediately. Also, Ronnie Cuber. I really, it was Gary and Ronnie Cuber who I really wanted to
Yeah, I
be.
did Ronnie Cuber play? I think he played on Bobby Broom's records with Doctor. I could be wrong. I'm
Yeah,
pretty
there's a
sure.
record. I think it's called Modern Man, if I'm not
That's
mistaken.
it.
Yeah,
That's the
with
one.
Bobby Broom and Lonnie Smith and
Yeah, that's
Idris
great.
Muhammad. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, what a great record. I didn't even have
Uh,
to ask you because you just mentioned him,
yeah, yeah. So those two guys especially, I wanted to, you know, study with and just hear and go hear as much as possible. I mean, it's great, it's essential to listen to recordings, but until you hear somebody in person to have that sound right in front of you, I mean that's a speaking of teaching too. That's a main thing I talked about with students is a sound. Um, for me, sound is everything. But going back to studying with Gary and Ronnie, it's just like being that close to a great sound. I mean, I feel like you can really learn so much just by being there and feeling and hearing what it's like to to be that close to a really great sound.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people who are learning how to do this online with just all this stuff, but
Yeah.
there's no substitution for like I've been at like Peter Bernstein was one of my teachers, and I've gotten the chance to like just just be face to face with him like right next to each other and play duo. You can't get that
Yeah,
experience.
absolutely. It's very important. Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a I mean, but times are changing. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the Vanguard Jazz Orchestra.
Sure.
So Gary's had that position for I'm not sure how long
I
exactly.
think he joined the band around 1980. So that's 45 years or so.
Wow. So you've worked with them, subbing, I presume
Yeah,
also.
quite a bit. I mean, I started subbing for Gary in 2004. So for me, it's been 20 years.
Do you remember the first time you got the call to sub?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, talk to me about that.
Um,
I'm really, what it was like.
well, yeah, I mean, that was another like main thing I wanted to try for moving to New York because I kind of came up listening to all those Thad Jones, Mel Lewis recordings, and then the Mel Lewis Jazz Orchestra, the Vanguard Jazz Orchestra, that lineage. So again, I was just like such a fan of the band. Who knows if I ever would have got to play with them, but just to be there and just to go. So when I moved to New York, I would just go every Monday night just because I loved the music and I was such a fan of the band. And of course, at that time, I was studying with Gary, and it in kind of what seemed like forever. So I moved to New York in 2001, and as a young musician, I think we're all kind of in a hurry for things to happen. I tell young students, I say, don't be in a hurry for stuff to happen. Just be patient. So these between 2001 and 2004, it just seemed like an eternity. And then by the time Gary called me for the first time in 2004, I was like, oh man. So I remember it very well, and because it's something that I had wanted to do for a long time. And I knew the music just from the recordings. I listened to recordings all the time, and I was going to check the band out every week and really like listening, like, how does Gary play this? What does he do here? Like, if I ever get called, I want to fit in. I don't want to stick out like a sore thumb. I mean, I want to be myself, but I also want to do the job properly. Um, so
You knew the music though, like pretty, you knew what you were.
yeah, yeah, just because I was like I said, I just listened to that band so much.
Did you see music beforehand? Like, were those things you might have been, or you just kind of
Well,
went?
in college, yeah, I mean, a lot of that stuff I played in college. And so, I'm not saying that like I had everything down pat before I went in, but I was definitely familiar and comfortable with, what the repertoire was and what the music was and all that sort of stuff.
So you're playing the first time with them, and
Yeah,
I'm sure walking down the stairs, it feels surreal in a
it
sense.
really does. It really does. It's like, is this actually happening? But um,
We're talking about the world's most famous jazz club.
right, I know, exactly. And well, the thing that really freaks me out, even to this day, um, is to be physically sitting in the literal spot where Pepper Adams sat for all those years, and where Gary has sat for, just sitting in that spot. It's really it's a real responsibility that I think about when I'm there. You know what I
You know
mean?
what I've thought about, and I'm not sure if you've ever thought about this, but
Mhm.
I'm asking you as a sub for the band, and
Mhm.
The players in the band are tremendous. But do they want to be leading their own groups like every now and then, or even every couple of years, like their own quintet or septet? You know what I mean? Like
Well, I think I mean, are you talking about like at the club or just in general?
at the club, at the
Okay, well, I think yes, I think they do. Um, and for whatever reason, I really don't know the reason, but that doesn't seem to happen all that often. I know Terrell Stafford leads a band at the Vanguard, but he started doing that before he became a member of the orchestra.
those before.
Yeah, and Michael Weiss, he was, not a member, but he's subbed quite a bit over the years. And he would have his band into the Vanguard sometimes. But again, I think that was before he was kind of associated with the band. So yeah, I think the members would love to do that. But yeah, for whatever reason, that
For
doesn't really.
whatever, and it's like for whatever reason is the
Yeah.
answer, right?
Yeah.
Because I've thought about this, about all those different players,
Yeah.
Adam
All
Birnbaum,
great players.
all
Yeah.
all like such
Yeah. World class.
world class, yeah. So that's interesting. I just like how we for whatever reason is the what we're
Yeah.
getting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, talk to me a little bit about, I know you're going on the road. When is that again? You said in around
Oh,
May?
with Gary? That's
Yeah.
in yeah, early May, early May.
Yeah. So what's going on with you, up until then? You have some, other things you're looking forward to, or
Let's
even
see.
later in the year that are on the books?
Well, um, that's a great question. I'm trying to remember what's coming up. This isn't quite an answer to your question. The end of last year was I had some nice stuff going on. I made a trip in September to the UK with this really fantastic trumpet player over there. I play with off and on named Steve Fishwick. We had a really nice tour. November, I went on this tour. This was kind of um, unusual thing for me because most of the stuff I do is like really jazz. But I did a tour with this great soul singer from Britain named James Hunter, and I really enjoyed it. It was very nice, great
How
music.
long was the tour?
That was a 3 week tour, and
Oh, wow.
he was the that tour he was the opening act for Bonnie Raitt. So we were playing before Bonnie Raitt every night, and that was very cool, And she's a real deal. She's an amazing musician. Like her band's great. Um, so that was an interesting experience. I really enjoyed it. And then in December, I was in France playing with another great trumpet player in Europe, Fabien Mary, who I've been playing with, uh, um, I think about 15 years now, doing stuff over there and over here. He lived in New York for a little bit. So we did about 10 days over there. And then he came to New York and we did a number of gigs together here in New York. And then a couple weeks ago, well, in January, I did a trip to Mexico with this drummers band who I've been playing a lot with, named I Murakami. And but now to get back, I'm trying to think of
No, 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 no. This is
uh,
good. If you know, if now is like,
well,
it's
there's just a few things here and there. I think there's a couple one-offs I'm doing again with this guy James Hunter, and let's see what else. I'm actually leading a number of things here and there throughout the city. I'm doing some stuff at the usual places, Cellar Dog, Ornithology, Smalls. Um, and actually, I might plug the thing I'm doing at Smalls in
yeah. But when's that coming up?
I think it's March 23rd, and I'm going to take that as an opportunity to in April uh, would be the centennial of one of my favorite baritone saxophonists, a guy named Leo Parker. And so I'm going to use this gig at Smalls as kind of a early celebration for the centennial of Leo Parker. So I'm looking forward to that. So right now, just
You're in
coming
the
up.
city. You're in the city for the next
Yeah.
couple of weeks and
Yes.
doing your
Yes.
thing. No, that's great. And this has been a great conversation. It's so nice to talk to you, and I love your playing, and we'll definitely also mention that you're playing that tribute at Smalls in March, in the post and everything, so people can,
Great, great. Okay.
but thanks so much, Frank. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for having me.